They say the last time they saw Nneka, she was sitting alone by the edge of the stream, her face gaunt, her eyes hollow with regret. She was old then, and the villagers said she wept for the life she had never lived. She had been beautiful once, but now, she was nothing but a shadow of the woman who had turned away every man who came to ask for her hand in marriage. The first time I saw it happen, I was just a boy, and I didn't understand what I was witnessing. But as the years passed, it became clear to me that Nneka's beauty was more of a curse than a blessing. Nneka was the daughter of Okafor, a wealthy trader in our village of Umuogali. Her mother, Uzomoko, had passed away when she was still a child, but everyone knew Nneka would grow into a woman like no other. Her skin was like smooth brown clay, and her hair flowed in thick, dark waves that shimmered in the sun. Men would pause whatever they were doing when she passed by, their eyes following her every step. But no man had ever been able to win her heart. Every year, new suitors came to the village, each one eager to marry her. They would come with their cows, their palm wine, their promises of a good life. And every time, Nneka would reject them, each one for a different reason. The first man to ask for Nneka's hand was Nochukwu, a tall, strong man from the neighboring village of Odo. He was a warrior, well known for his bravery in battle. He had seen Nneka from afar and had fallen in love with her the moment he set eyes on her. "Nneka," he said one evening, after a long journey to her father's house. "I am Nochukwu, the son of Isiokofo. I have come to ask for your hand in marriage. I promise to protect you, to give you all the happiness you deserve." Nneka looked at him, her face unreadable. She didn't smile. Instead, she shook her head slowly. "You are too tall," she said coldly. "I need a man whose height matches mine. Someone who will be my equal, not someone who towers over me like a tree." Nochukwu was stunned. He had never heard such a thing. But he left quietly, his heart broken. Nneka would often gather with her friends by the village square, her laughter bright and her eyes glinting with pride. "I will marry the best among all the men in the world," she would say, tossing her head back, the beads in her hair shimmering. "None of these men who come to me are good enough. The one I choose will be perfect, tall, strong, rich, and wise. He will have everything I want and more, and when I find him, everyone will see that I was right to wait for the best." Her friends, who had seen many suitors come and go, exchanged uneasy glances, but Nneka was so certain, so full of confidence, they didn't dare challenge her. Next came Chijioke, a short but strong man who worked as a blacksmith in the village. He was proud of his craft, and many said he could make the finest iron tools in the land. He had heard of Nneka's rejection of Nochukwu but believed that his own strength and skill would be enough to win her over. One evening, he stood before her, his hands calloused from years of work. "Nneka, I may not be tall like Nochukwu, but I am strong. My hands have shaped many things, and I will shape a good life for us both." But Nneka's face was as cold as the iron he worked with. "You are too short," she replied, her voice sharp. "I need a man who can reach the heavens, who can stand tall before the ancestors. You are not the one." Chijioke left, humiliated, his heart heavy with shame. And still, Nneka remained unmoved. Then came Obiajili, a man who was both rich and generous. His family owned land and cattle, and he was known for his kindness. He came from a family of merchants who traded with the people in far-off towns. When he arrived, he brought palm wine, yam, and fine clothes as gifts for Nneka's father. "Nneka," Obiajili said, his voice smooth like the sound of a river, "I come to offer you a life of luxury. You will never want for anything. I will give you everything you desire, clothes, jewelry, a fine home. Will you marry me?" But Nneka only glanced at him with a piercing gaze before replying, "You are too rich. A man with so much wealth cannot understand the value of hard work. I need a man who knows what it means to struggle and to fight for every meal." Obiajili left, his pride bruised, but he never returned. And the rumors began to spread. Nneka was impossible to please. She was so picky, so difficult, no man would ever be good enough. But as the years went by, her friends grew more concerned. One evening, as they sat under the shade of a large palm tree, they tried to reason with her. "Nneka, you cannot keep turning away every man who comes to ask for you. You are growing older, and soon, no one will come. Life is not just about perfection. A good man will treat you right, even if he isn't exactly what you imagined, they warned her gently. We know you are beautiful and deserve the best, but you must also consider love, companionship, and family. Nneka waved them off, her expression firm. I know what I want, she said dismissively. I am not like the others who settle for less. I wait until the right man comes, he will be worth the wait. And with that, she turned her back on their advice, dismissing their concern as nothing more than the worry of women who had given up their dreams. Then came Ugochukwu, a quiet, gentle soul who spoke little but worked hard on his farm. He was not wealthy, nor was he tall. But he had a heart of gold. He had always admired Nneka from afar, and finally, one day, he gathered the courage to speak to her. Nneka, he said softly, I know I am not like the others. I do not have riches, and I am not as tall as Nochukwu. But I will love you with all my heart. I will work hard to make you happy. Nneka looked at him, her expression unchanging. You talk too much, she said. I need a man of few words, not someone who cannot hold his tongue. And just like that, Ugochukwu left, heartbroken, his love for Nneka unspoken, unreturned. After that, no more suitors came. Nneka had turned away the best of them, each man rejected for some small flaw, some petty reason. As the years passed, she grew older, more beautiful, but also more alone. The village elders began to worry. They whispered that no one would marry her now, not with the way she had treated the men who sought her. It was then that I realized something strange. Nneka was not just rejecting these men. She was rejecting life itself. She was so obsessed with perfection that she had driven away the very people who could have loved her, who could have given her the life she claimed to want. Years later, when I had become a young man, I came back to the village after a long time away. The villagers told me that Nneka had grown old without a husband, without children. She had no one to care for her in her old age. No one to visit her, no one to give her food when she was sick. I went to her father's compound, where I had heard she now lived alone. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, Nneka sat on a mat, her once beautiful face now lined with wrinkles, her once perfect skin faded and dry. Her hair was thin and grey, no longer the glossy black I remembered. She looked at me with tired eyes. Oh, you have come to see the old woman, she said, her voice hollow. I never married, you know. I turned them all away, too tall, too short, too rich, too poor. I thought I was waiting for the perfect man. But now I have no one. I didn't know what to say to her. The regret in her voice was clear as the sadness in her eyes. Do you regret it? I asked quietly. Nneka didn't answer at first. She simply stared at the ground, her hands shaking. Finally, she whispered, I waited for perfection, and in the end, I ended up alone. No man, no children. Just me, and my regrets. I left her there that day, and the village never saw Nneka again. She passed away not long after, quietly, without anyone to mourn her properly. The men she had rejected were all married, with children of their own, living the lives she had once turned away. But Nneka had never gotten what she wanted. She had turned down every suitor, convinced that there was someone better, someone more perfect. In the end, she had nothing. Now, whenever I walk by the old stream where Nneka once sat, I can almost hear the whispers of her regret, carried by the wind. She had been so beautiful, so sought after, and yet, in the end, she was nothing but a woman alone, too proud, too picky, too lost in her own standards to ever truly find happiness.